Dr. Kernberg, what is the state of health of psychoanalysis today?
And that scientifically, the more we know about human personality and human psychopathology, the more psychoanalysis appears as the most important theory that integrates all of them. And I think this is being recognized also by some of the leading neuroscientists. In this connection, one very important development that is still being ignored is the linkage of psychoanalysis with the neurobiology of behavior, the neurobiology of intrapsychic experience. I think that is an exciting area that is still being ignored, but in 10, 15 years will lead to important new developments in the mind-body boundary, in the study of mind-body boundaries. There are different schools that fight each other in the practical, professional area. The neo-Bionians, the relationists, the ego-psychologists, the Lacanians, the British independents, and the Kleinians. I think that they all have important contributions to make, and that they will be gradually integrated. There is 20 years ago, ego-psychologists and Kleinians were in an open war. Nowadays, this is no longer true. The battlefront is in other areas. Psychoanalysis is not in crisis, but in a difficult social situation, I think. The educational system of psychoanalysis has suffered under the isolation and the self-centered organization of psychoanalytic institutions. Psychoanalysts have not been able to incorporate contemporary educational methods. The psychoanalytic institutes have been used mostly to train professionals, but not to develop the science. And psychoanalytic societies have not had the means to develop the science. I think the solution is that psychoanalytic institutes shift into contemporary educational methods and being concerned for the development of the science, which means collaboration with university, empirical research. So development of science, education, and psychoanalytic psychotherapy are important tasks. I feel confident that psychoanalysis will be able to achieve that, but it will require leadership. If we do not resolve these problems, then there is a danger that psychoanalysis will always have had an important contribution to 20th and 21st century culture. So psychoanalysis has made an impact on culture that will remain. But it will disappear as a science, and it will disappear as a profession. Or rather, the psychoanalytic techniques that have been developed will be absorbed by other orientations. Already today, the cognitive behavior therapists are using psychoanalytic oriented technique instead of introspection. They talk about mindfulness instead of transference. They talk about relation, but they are slowly absorbing, and the danger would be that the centripetal nature of psychoanalysis would get lost, while what it has contributed professionally would be kind of diluted. And that is a pity, because psychoanalysis has an enormous conceptual, theoretical, and therefore also practical consequences. A very important, unique role is the unique science, and it deserves to be developed. It's exciting and important, but we have a big task.
Within the Freudian paradigm, neurotic transference is preliminary condition for psychoanalytic treatment. Do patients with borderline personality disorders meet Freud's criterion of analyzability? What is changed in the theory and the technique of psychoanalysis?
The field has changed because now we have a much more complex and rich psychopathology. We can be more precise in definitions than Freud could in his time. And we have the experience with patients whom Freud didn't see. Freud saw very well-educated middle-class people, but he didn't see antisocial adolescents with the drug addiction and severe breakdown in the capacity to function socially, total incapacity to enter into a sexual relationship. He didn't see those patients who pick up objects and throw it to the wall. So, so I would say that Freud was not very specific in, and that our criteria for analyzability are not very precise because they still stem from traditional intuitive global evaluation of patients and not more precise psychopathological understanding. So I would say that the analyzability has expanded. We can analyze more people than Freud thought we could, and that the limits of analyzability are given by the severity of the personality structure, and that patients with neurotic structure, that is to say, normal identity and the capacity for ordinary functioning in their social relation, in establishing an intimate relationship, in capacity for work, have indications for psychoanalysis. But when we go to the severe ones, then the differentiations emerge. Specific types of borderline personality patients can be analyzed, should be analyzed, others shouldn't. For example, narcissistic personalities who clearly have a borderline structure should be analyzed, except if they are so openly, have such an open breakdown in their social functioning that they are incapable to work, incapable to do ordinary social relations, incapable of any intimate love relations. Those should be treated by modified analytic techniques rather than standard psychoanalysis. And when I talk about modified psychoanalytic techniques, I'm talking about psychoanalytic psychotherapy. So it is not that analysis is limited there, but it has to be adjusted in terms of what we have found in treating those personalities. Then there are secondary criteria that involve individual cases. If there is excessively severe antisocial features, there's usually a contraindication for psychoanalysis. I'm not only talking about of antisocial personality proper, whose prognosis is zero, but also narcissistic pathology with severe antisocial features. So the severity of antisocial features is a negative prognostic element for standard psychoanalysis. Many psychoanalysts have the fantasy, if they are good analysts, then they could do psychotherapy as well. That's not necessarily so. That is a grandiose assumption of psychoanalysis. So if psychoanalytic psychotherapy is a serious technique based on theoretical, on a sound theoretical base, it expands the territory of psychoanalysis. I mean, just illustrating the concept that, yes, borderline patients, even psychotic patients, can be treated based on psychoanalytic theory and technique, but with specific adaptations.
Thank you, Dr. Kernberg. One last question. Which are the main goals the transfer-focused psychotherapy?
The main goals are really transformation of the personality, integration of identity, and the capacity to develop the capacity for understanding in depth of oneself and others, to be able to develop normal functions of commitment to work, to intimate relationships that integrate erotism and tenderness, love and sex, and to have meaningful, in-depth relations with significant others.
Thank you, Dr. Kernberg, for this interview.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah.